All right, everyone. Trump was roasting the media yesterday. He comes back from his tour and immediately launches in on CNN. He's like, oh, CNN International is like, Fox is better, but CNN International is more prevalent around the world to sort of broadcast an image of the U.S., and they're fake news and stuff. And said, well, maybe there should be a fake news trophy for the most dishonest coverage of my presidency, basically. And it was funny. And fake news trophy was trending there for a bit, which was hilarious. I concur with the sentiment, but the thing is, it's not just the legacy media hates Trump and they're anti-Trump and so they're dishonest about him. Lately, we've seen a swing towards mass dishonesty and propaganda in so many different realms. It's not funny, and it doesn't even really per se just start with Trump either. You remember, like, the PewDiePie hit piece that the Wall Street Journal did was a long time ago. That was sort of a bellwether for how the media was going to begin treating alternative entertainment. And it's simply for fiscal reasons. It's like with Trump. Trump's not giving them interviews. He's not contributing to the... He tweets things out. So a lot of people don't need to go to CNN to hear what the president said. They don't need to go to MSNBC or watch Fox to hear what Trump said today. They go to Twitter. They check his Twitter handle. They go to Facebook. They see, maybe they're signed up to his page there. They're on YouTube or something. They're listening to 1,000 different independent commentators. So he's not contributing money to their capabilities like past presidents have with Obama. He loved to go before certain networks, of course. He was more reluctant to go on Fox. But as far as CNN, like, he was at their beck and call. He's like, yeah, I might as well sign me up for Weekends with Obama. It'll just be an ongoing show. MSNBC, he would go on a lot of the late night circuits there with Jon Stewart or Colbert. He loved to talk to people like that are, they're not even part of the news. They just satirize the news. Oh, which is an interesting form of analysis, by the way. A lot of people have a stick up their ass about them. They're like, they're not real news. Well, they're not really trying to be. They're playing anchors on TV as a joke, basically. Sort of like SNL when they do a Trump skit. They're not actually trying to speak for Trump. It's an attempt of buffoonery. But the legacy media then decided to light into alternative media. Because I think what they saw was that a hell of a lot of interest and coverage was driven not by CNN, not by Fox, not by MSNBC, not by newsprint, not by cable, not by talk radio. Yeah, people still pay attention to them, but their trustworthiness rankings have been cratering lately. And they started cratering, by the way, before Trump got into office or even into the race. We're talking half a decade ago they were having problems. A decade ago they were still kind of on the ropes because of the Iraq War, because of the hyper-partisan nature of the lay people in the country. What you're going to end up, by the way, having over the next couple decades at some point is someone's going to unite the nation, so to speak, in an ideological sense, if we've still survived the moral panic. Assuming we don't have World War III or a major catastrophe or something like that, or devolve into civil war, you'll have a uniter candidate at some point that'll heal things for half a generation. It'll be pretty good, by the way, when that happens. Look for it in the next 10, 20 years. It's not just Trump, though. So I think I agree with his sentiment, but we need to go further. We need to have sub-awards, too. You should have the major award is just the fake news award. This is the trophy you get for being the most prevalently dishonest group. Right now, I think CNN and the New York Times are sort of neck and neck for getting this award. Fox actually wouldn't be far behind because while they've got maybe more fair coverage of Trump, the coverage of everything else is just as shitty as it's always been, and they've always had that fucking problem. MSNBC, they're kind of in fourth place because they're less important now and nobody fucking cares, so, But then you have to also have awards for, like, most dishonest coverage of Trump specifically, which is what he's talking about. Of course, he's made it about him. Most dishonest coverage of alternative media. Most dishonest coverage of alternative tech, like the Minds and the Gabs and stuff, or open source tech, as Ottman would say. The new tech, you could call it. Most dishonest coverage of new entertainers, like PewDiePie, JonTron, stuff like that we've seen. Most dishonest coverage of 4chan would be its own fucking category at this point. Most hyper-partisan coverage. Most thinly veiled advocacy of violence programming. I think that would probably be the Washington Post. And, well, some of the other groups. here's another problem. You get a lot of propaganda and partisanship that comes from groups that technically aren't legacy media, like a Vox or a Vice. They're not really, they're older guard news online, but they're not really legacy. They're not the same as a CNN or a Fox. So they should have their own separate categories too, like for the missing link media, we could call them. That's a new term I'm going to start using. Missing link media are those web-only largely or magazine-driven groups that are new enough not to be part of the legacy media. They're sort of techy and trendy and more efficient, but they're not part of the social media analysis revolution. They don't do politics like as a YouTuber would do it. It's not fully independent. It's still a business. It's still a corporate model. It's just different from the old, much, much more inefficient corporate models of a CNN, a Fox. Every time they turn on, roll the cameras, they spend several $1,000,000 a day just existing, let alone actually putting everything out to people. Then they have to suck down ad revenue. And then as you march along, things get more and more efficient, cheaper, less reliant on outside sources of income other than the grassroots. I mean, you know, people sell like I sell straw pillows with my image on them. I want a Styx, Hex, and Hammer plushie, I guess is the new joke. Why not Styx, Hex, and Hammer straw pillows? You know, I could actually make those. You know, only 99 cents a piece because they're dirt cheap. It's basically, you know, it's as cheap as the words of any mainstream pundit. Yeah, I think that'll be the slogan. I'm just joking. I would never do that, but you get it. Yeah, we definitely need trophies for these groups, the fake news trophies. What we should do is we should have more of a spit-shined, upgraded, like a Kilroy event style thing going, where we have like get-togethers as the alt media. Not just advocate, like the Kilroy events, like free speech advocacy, which is great. Like that certainly ties in and overlaps with it. But what about specifically for those of us, and even smaller creators too, that specifically talk about politics, social movements, you know, sort of the philosophical and current events sides of things, as opposed to people who, you know, they primarily do other things. A lot of it's political, but it's also, it goes beyond that into specifically, well, this is my ideology and I'm educating you about it more in an academic sense, as opposed to, hey, this is what's happening in the world and I happen to have a certain slant to that reporting. Because I think there are a lot of good citizen journalists, smaller groups, in many cases they're like non-salary groups. It's just a group of people who've gotten together to sort of, you know, make a collective blog or something. The Times of Poll was like this a while ago. It was almost, in a way, because it was several years ago, that's almost the birth of that alt media style that I'm seeing cropping up elsewhere. I was not the leader of that until it was already basically defunct, and I just sort of straggled along because the person who was adminning it, they left. I had written a couple of articles, but apparently they didn't want to keep the website afloat, and so it just straggled along as a Facebook page. It was very short-lived, and it didn't really do the job. It had its problems, mainly that they had their own website when they could have designed something so much more efficient with a blog. But it was a good attempt, and now you see this happening more and more frequently. People have these sites and blogs. They're sort of releasing info out in the more text format, like more what you would get from NewYorkTimes.com or, you know, the Drudge Report or something, where they just sort of summarize, analyze. You get things like that. You've got a whole new crop of people doing that. And a lot of people, I think, increasingly are turning to that and video format for their news, as opposed to wanting to turn on the TV. What do you use your TV for? You probably play video games and watch Netflix on it. You probably haven't watched cable TV recently. Honestly, you probably haven't even watched cable TV recently. So, you know, it's no wonder these groups want to edge in on YouTube and get a streaming bundle going. Where else are they going to survive? Oh no, we need to get more on-demand content. We need to go online. It's more efficient. Should even leave behind the on-demand services. I mean, they should move into being web-only. They should only be on YouTube. It'd be so, you know, we wouldn't have to host anything. New York Times, all of a sudden they're like, yeah, we're cutting half our staff. We no longer need them. You know, oh, our cost decreased by 90%, revenue doubled. They could probably pull it off if they wanted to, but then they'd have to stop making their shitty newspaper and actually, maybe they'd have to be more entertaining. They'd have to actually tell the truth once in a while. So I agree with our president. It's a good idea, but it needs elaboration. And Trump, you're supposed to think big. it shouldn't just be one award. It should be a whole ceremony. You could actually pull this off. To have Donald Trump Jr. handle it. Have him come out. He can have the awards smelted from, copper and stuff is fairly cheap. Just make him out of that. And you just give them out. You can send them in as a joke, but you make sure to put the ceremony on YouTube before it's done. And you should have some of us independent commentators like live streaming along with it to give our thoughts, and we can help vote on who gets the awards. That'd be so funny. It'd be like legendary. That'd be a great idea. That's about all. Peace out.